What really pulled me along as she was describing those bushes was this, it was an aside where she said that my husband planted for me after our visit, our trip to India. That is an amazing detail. Hello and welcome. I teach a class every Wednesday, a craft writing class with some folks, and we always have a great time. And today we were talking about using sensory description in our writing as part of our craft discussion. So here's the assignment. Here's the technique that I want you to think about. You don't have to do it right now, obviously, but do it sometimes. I highly recommend that you go outside for this exercise. You don't have to. You can literally do it right where you are right now. That's totally fine. But if you can go outside, if it's safe for you, or when it is safe, if it is safe for you to go outside, outside is really probably better for this particular exercise, but you can do it from wherever. It's a very simple exercise. It's just about being in a place, centering yourself, call it your Zen place, call it whatever, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, being quiet and using your entire body to take note of the world around you. Using your eyes, your ears, your nose, your fingertips, everything. What does the place smell like? What does it feel like? What are the textures? Obviously, what are you looking at? Giving us very specific descriptions. For this exercise, you're just going to make a list. You don't need to write a lush, vivid sentence right now. Just make a list and be as specific as possible. Well, I hear the birds singing. That's great. Do you know what kind of birds? Is there a way you can look that up? Can you figure out what kind of birds are making such and such a sound? Well, there's flowers down here by the porch. Cool. Do you know what kind of flowers they are? Well, I'm smelling this sort of herbal scent on the wind. Great. Can you give us more? What kind of herbal scent? Is it lavender? Is it oregano? Is it whatever? Try to get as specific as possible. Really dig deep into those specifics when you write your list. But I want you to use your whole body. There is a difference between touching something, using your sense of touch, and feeling pain, for example. That is, I believe, called nociception, N-O-C-I-ception, nociception. For example, one of my students today went out to her front porch and she sat down on the red brick step of her front porch. Okay. Just those words alone, you can kind of get an image in your head of where she is and what she's sitting on and that kind of thing, right? Brick front porch step. Great. But she noticed, didn't write it down, but just noticed as we were talking and the students were giving their responses back in real time. She pointed out that I realized I couldn't sit there very long or it would start to hurt and I would need a pillow. Okay? That's nociception, the feeling of pain. Okay? And that tells us a lot about the character. Imagine opening your story with that kind of very specific detail. Frances sat on the brick front porch steps, thinking she would need a pillow before too long for her back, or whatever the detail might be. But that one sentence tells us a lot about that character, right? And that's very cool. Another student pointed out that she went out to her back porch and she heard some rustling around the side of the house, so she went to look, and on the neighbor's back porch, somebody was had their beach chairs and furniture and whatever out on the patio, out on the back porch, and was hosing it down from the garden hose. Okay, cool. That's not terribly specific. She didn't tell us what color the furniture was, what type of furniture it was. We don't even know anything about the neighbor, just that a quote-unquote neighbor was washing off the beach furniture with a hose. Okay, so why would you want to use that in a story, for example? Because that detail, the overall detail of somebody is washing off what kind of furniture? Beach furniture with a garden hose. Statistically, that might indicate, if you're the author and you're taking control of what goes into your story, that probably indicates you're near a beach. But instead of saying Frances lived on the beach, you're saying Frances went outside, was sitting on the front stoop, sitting on the brick, on the stone, on the concrete front step, and noticed Bill across the way was hosing off his beach furniture for the season, or whatever. You just told us what you needed to tell us about the beach using a different specific detail. Is it the right detail? That's where you come in, not me, not anybody else can dictate or prescribe to you which details you keep and which ones you don't. Maybe in your story, given the voice, given the circumstances, maybe what you need to start with is Frank grew up on the beach, or Frank owned a house on the beach, period. Cool, that's fine. You don't necessarily always want to go into vivid detail or specific detail, but it's better, in my estimation, to write out those specific details and then trim them back as you see fit in revision. For example, if we're talking about a dog, okay, that's somebody's walking a dog. Maybe that's the only detail you need right now in this particular scene in your book. Great. Maybe, though, you want to have somebody walking not just a dog, but a poodle, or a standard poodle, or whatever, labradoodle, something like that. That's a little bit more specific. Cool. We don't know what color, though. Okay, well, maybe it's a white labradoodle. Okay, cool. Maybe it's a white hypoallergenic labradoodle, or some, one of those dogs that is bred to not trigger people's allergies. That's a very specific detail that would tell us a lot, wouldn't it? By using that kind of level of detail, we go down that far in the rabbit hole. You've just given us a lot of information about the character without necessarily having to say it. You don't have to spend a paragraph saying, and Frank was allergic to dogs. That's why he has this hypoallergenic poodle, or whatever the hell it is, right? So I want you to be thinking in those terms. Go outside, see what's going on, taste things, smell things if it's safe to, smell things, rub things between your fingers, and really go down deep with those vivid descriptors, right? Even more importantly, though, than any of that, I would argue, is allowing your memory to come into play and recording those memories and those sensory memory is so powerful. One of our students today talked about, they went out onto their porch and there was a ceiling fan going, and the pull chain was tapping against the little base of the fan. And as soon as she said that, I was like, yes, I know that sound. And then I asked everybody else, do you know the sound she's talking about? And everybody's hands went up, right? That's just, there's a very distinct tick, 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 tick recurring sound that happens with ceiling fans. That detail is interesting, and it connects me to the writer. I mean, as a reader, I read that sentence and I'm immediately drawn even further into the story. It's like the writer is pulling me deeper into the story because they've used a sensory detail that immediately resonates with me. So that's cool. What I then want the writer to consider is, what is the significant memory of that ticking sound? Is that the same sound that grandma's fan used to make when you would visit her and it brings you warm, fuzzy feelings? Or is that the sound of the stepdad's, the evil stepfather in his den, and where he would always watch football and smoke cigars and bad things happened, and there was always that ceiling fan, tick, 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 right? It all depends on what you are deliberately crafting in the scene, in the story. What are you trying to evoke? We've talked about this. Decide what you want to evoke in the scene, and then you use these sensory details to get there. Another one of my students mentioned the particular type of bush, a flowering bush. I think it was jasmine. And there's these jasmine plants surrounding the house. And I don't know what jasmine looks like. I could look it up, but off the top of my head, I don't know what it looks like. I'm not 100% sure I know what it smells like. I think I do, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I know it's a good smell generally. It's a happy kind of smell, but I'm not 100% sure. Cool. That detail about the jasmine bushes isn't what jumped out, and what isn't what pulled me along. And what pulled me along, and again, I don't think she wrote this down. I think this is something that just came up as we were discussing our results. What really pulled me along as she was describing those bushes was this. It was an aside where she said that my husband planted for me after our trip to India. That is an amazing detail. That tells me all kinds of things, or at least intimates all kinds of things about that relationship. We went on this trip, whether it was a week or a year or whatever, maybe we lived there, doesn't matter, but we came back here and he planted this particular plant for me so that I can always have that memory of our time in India together. That's gorgeous. That is beautiful. I don't know if it's going to end up in a book or not, but it's a really great detail that is not in and of itself a sensory detail. Rather, it's a memory, it's a character thing brought about by the sensory detail. See how that kind of works out? So those are the kinds of things that I want you to be looking for and crafting and deliberately inserting, or in some cases deleting, into or out of your story, because those are the kinds of things that hook the reader in a very physical, very tangible way and pull us closer, pull us nearer those characters and pull us nearer to that story. So just something to think about. Go outside if it's safe to go outside. Everybody said it was hot today. It was really funny. Everyone's like, it was so hot. So I was like, yeah, 5 minutes tops, especially if you live in Phoenix. Don't go out for longer than 5 minutes. But if it's safe for you to go outside, or when you go for a walk, which you really should do anyway, go for your daily walk, take your earbuds out, think about it, get in touch with everything around you. If you cannot go outside, if you are literally stuck where you are right now as you watch or listen or read this, cool. Use your body. If you're lying in bed right now as you watch this or listen to it or read it, what does the bed feel like? Where are you itchy? Where does something hurt? Where does something feel good? What's the temperature like? What does your skin feel? Is this side of your face different from this side of your face because you've got that goddamn zit that just won't go away? Have you shaved recently? If you haven't, what's that like? If you have, what's that like? What do you smell? You can do this any place because you're just using your body, right? So do the exercise, take some notes, and the more you get into that practice, even just as a habit of something you do almost without thinking too much about it, the bigger your memory bank will get, and the more lush and vivid your descriptions will be, and they will keep your readers coming back for more because you're going to be talking about things that resonate with them every time. All right? Hope that helps, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.